Okay, so part 3 of why there's a leather manufacturing crisis in Italy and in Tuscany more specifically. I have parts 1 and 2 already up, so if you haven't watched them, it'll make a lot more sense to go back and watch them. I stitched them below, and then come back here and join us. Basically, long story short, the manufacturer I've been working with for the last year told me that they were closing, which prompted me to come on here and talk about how hundreds of factories are closing throughout Tuscany and Italy this year and last year. Almost 400 factories are at risk of closing, specifically for leather goods, and that nobody in the international fashion media is really talking about it. There's a lot of people talking about it here, obviously, in Tuscany, because it directly equates to many people losing their livelihoods. But internationally, I just don't see this even on any radar. So I'm talking about it. Now in video 2, I kind of ended at the 90s, when basically the middle range of production in Italy, middle brands, licensed production, things like that, just completely left and went to Asia. And the luxury brands were the only game in town, and they were booming. So let's pick up from there, because that's basically been the landscape here for the last 30 years. So for the last 30 years, you've had independent factories. Remember, always independent, always individually, privately, most of the time family-owned factories. There are far more small factories, 20 people or less, than there are large factories. I think 20 people or less makes up over 75% of the production landscape here in Italy. So family factories. And they are readjusting their supply chains to service the luxury brands at their own expense. They're buying the machines. They're slowly pivoting, training, becoming more specialized, more industrialized. And this is the important part, right? Because as these luxury brands grow to be billion-dollar brands, producing sometimes upwards of 40,000 bags a month at certain times, this process is going from artisanal to industrial. And I argue this all the time. It can be the highest level of industrial production, but there is no world in which 40,000 bags a month and artisanal production exist in the same sentence. To make 40,000 bags a month, you have to maximize your production line for speed, efficiency, and profitability. And I would argue that that led us to even exporting some of this work to other countries and then bringing it back in to do the final 10 to 20 to 30 to 40% of the production in Italy, so that that product could still be made in Italy. Now, this is a practice that's definitely been going on for the last 15 years, but they're stopping doing this. This is going away. So these factories pivoted to service the luxury customer, and over the years have industrialized and specialized, and have gotten used to producing orders upwards of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 or more per year. Even for a small factory, an average amount of orders per year could be 20,000, 30,000 orders. This is also how it's gotten so much harder as an independent brand to come in and find manufacturers willing to work with you, because they have now re-engineered their supply chains to service larger orders and pretty homogenous product over and over again. So now we see factories, instead of making everything, they're specializing in one thing. And this is also where we start getting a lot more waste. But this video is not about that. I have many videos on that. Go back and look at those. But essentially, instead of a factory being able to produce everything, now you have factories that specialize in soft bags, factories that specialize in hard bags, factories that specialize only in wallets, factories that specialize only in small leather goods like Apple Watch straps and dog leashes and belts and different things like that. And all of this also means higher minimums. So as an independent brand, it just becomes very, very difficult, because instead of being able to go and find that one artisanal factory that can service everything I have to do, which maybe isn't a lot, but it's a bunch of different products, I have to work with 3 or 4 and give them tiny, tiny little production orders, because I am forced to split my own production based on everybody's expertise. And they don't really want to take that production, because 50-piece orders, 100-piece orders, when they've now industrialized their process to be able to service 20 or 30 or 40,000, a 35 or a 50 piece order is just, they're not making any money. They have to do it because they believe in you and they believe in your brand and they want to support emerging talent. But at the end of the day, if you're not giving them enough, it becomes more of a headache than anything else. And that's why with my work at Zero Lab, we do development services. It's honestly so that, like, my hope was that I could aggregate enough small orders to give to this factory to make it worthwhile for them to work with independent designers. Because yeah, I'm passionate about what I do, but I'm just like passionate about independent designers and like a more healthy fashion landscape in general. Okay, so that's the production landscape over the last 30 years and how we've kind of gotten to this point with the leather goods factories in Italy. Why is it a crisis right now? Number one, luxury is down across the board. It's down for many reasons. Number one, people are just, I would argue we've reached max saturation of luxury brands. Like, these are billion-dollar brands. How much bigger can we get here? How many more people want $3,000 handbags? But luxury is down. It's 9% down handbags year over year, 25% in shoes. It might not sound like a lot, but when you start breaking it down by brand, like Kering announced that they're down 49% overall amongst all their brands this year. 75% Gucci is down 75%. Like, so that's huge. These are huge makers in this region. Number two, luxury's down because of inflation, because of just mass saturation after COVID and a little bit of a recorrection, and also because of the war in Ukraine and Russia. Russian market is completely closed, and that was a huge tertiary market for luxury brands, but also for manufacturers in Italy who made for Russian brands. The other big thing that's happening is that luxury brands have decided to take a lot of their production in-house. And so they're doing either three things. They are outright buying their best factories, tanneries, and creating linear supply chains. They're forcing factories into liquidation through debt and then buying them out of bankruptcy for pennies on the dollar. That's a whole other video. Or they're walking away completely. And I get it. You want to own your own supply chain. You don't want your factories producing also for your competitors. There's a lot of like stopgaps in place that make it so that factories are not in the business of like copying. Factories here at least are not in the business of like copying and profiting off of like individually selling handbags, but that's what they want to do. We live in a capitalist society, so you know, that's what's happening. And so another reason that I initially forgot, and I'm going to add that luxury production is down right now, a very important reason, is because there's a giant shakeup at the creative director of many luxury brands. Gucci has a new creative director. Valentino obviously just announced that they have a new creative director. Burberry, Ferragamo, Bottega, Chloe. There's just every 5 to 7 years, there's kind of a massive shakeup at the creative director level. And when that happens, brands tend to pull back on orders until they figure out what the new creative direction of the brand is going to be and push forward with that. But that's what's contributing to just this like massive closing, in addition to just the relentless bureaucracy of owning a business in Italy and the relentless amount of taxes that you have to pay. And as a business owner in Italy, I can tell you, they're not making it easy. They're not making it easy. Anyway, that's the situation. That's how we got here. And that's why all of this directly affects independent brands who have such a hard time finding manufacturers and suppliers. I still believe in independent brands. I still believe that we are the ones that are going to be able to create a more circular production chain. I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to keep doing here, and I'm going to find a way to move forward, and I will let you guys know. But if you have any questions or comments, let me know, and let's get into it. And hopefully these videos like reach the wider fashion media, because I do think that luxury brands need to be held more accountable to their manufacturing partners. The profits are very one-sided. The profit to risk ratio is very lopsided, in my opinion. Happy Thursday.